What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Dynasty Pod, and today we have got another little mock draft for you here. This is our mock draft 2.0 on the season, and got a fresh new mock with some interesting landing spots here, Sam.
Yeah, very interesting. We always use the mock draft database for our mocks because it relates to, real mock drafts. It gives us pretty realistic landing spots. But this one's going to be fun. I love doing these drafts with real landing spots. Well, not real landing spots, but, you know, something other than just, is this player good? Because we've already done our rankings. Like, you guys know where we rank our running backs and wide receivers by now. It's really, this is kind of the missing piece of the puzzle for a mock draft, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, this will be fun.
Yeah. And today we will do a 2 quarterback standard PPR league, no tight end premium. We'll switch it up a little bit just to keep it kind of interesting. And we'll
So
go
two
back.
quarterback, not super flex.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Or no, we'll
quarterback's
do
even
we'll
more
do
valuable.
super flex. It's super
Okay,
flex.
okay, just standard super
Just
flex,
a
not
standard
tight end premium.
super flex, no tight end premium. We'll-
Yeah, that. It's interesting. Just before we start, I'll say a little bit about that since we're not doing tight end premium. I've realized kind of, and this has kind of been, I think, bubbling up in the Dynasty community. Maybe it's been there for a while, and I'm just kind of coming to terms with it. But like, I don't think I'm going to draft like any tight end until the third, like in most drafts from now on, just because one, you can find such value in the third round for tight ends. Like, I mean, like I think we saw that the last few years. And then like in addition, usually like the tight ends that go early are going to be cheaper in year two because they're just not going to perform. Like because tight ends just take so long to develop. Like I think you could probably get Trey McBride for a second, like a mid to late second, even though he went in like the early second, late first in rookie drafts. Like, I mean, don't you think? And I think the same was probably true for, probably, I mean, not Pitts. Well, yeah, Pitts too. Pitts' value was low this year. I think he was like available for,
yeah.
you know, you could get him for like a late first, and he went kind of as an early first. So,
I think it's tough. I think when you have a guy like Pitts, I still think the evaluation on him as a player, as a special prospect was there. So for him, I think he's more of an
if you
outlier.
need a tight end, and Pitts is an outlier.
Yeah.
It's more just the idea that almost every tight end is like available for less in their year two than they were drafted in year one.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think for most instances that's fair. And the guys that aren't are like, let's say a
Yeah, the guys that
Dulcich.
rise in value are like
Yeah.
the late third round players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Dulcich,
And that's not saying that tight
Okonkwo.
end's not important. It's like you have to, like the way the tight end position is now in Dynasty, like you have to have kind of, if you want to win a championship, you have to have a top six tight end probably, just
Yeah.
because the drop off is so high. But it's just like I would prefer to just find that guy via trade or get lucky with like an Okonkwo or a Dulcich or something like that. But
Yeah, and
anyways, that's a strategy I'm gonna try out in my drafts this year.
and we haven't done our tight end rankings fully yet, but I've already started on some of the evaluations on them, and I do think that Michael Mayer is the tight end one in this class, and I like him a lot. And I think he's by himself, but you do have a very strong tight end class, so it's going to be interesting to see how that also plays out this year, because as opposed to other years where maybe you have your one or your top two guys, I think there's like five or maybe six guys that you can really kind of think are reasonable starting tight ends in the NFL. So that'll be interesting. But let's get into this mock. You had the first overall pick last time, so I'll start us off here. And looking at these players, so we've got obviously the running back to take right here is Bijan Robinson, and he goes at 36 to the Rams. And I'm looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, and he goes at 30 to the Eagles. So I'm trying to think, is that a much better landing spot? Really good offensive line, going to be a good pass catcher. Miles Sanders probably going to be gone. So Jahmyr Gibbs could also have that backfield to himself, but I just think Bijan's too good of a prospect to pass up on. So I'm just going to go Bijan Robinson here and probably leave you Gibbs as your two.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's almost exactly like how I feel about this NFL draft. Like I've seen a lot of Gibbs to the Eagles mocked, and that's just such an amazing landing spot that I think if he does end up there, um, it is going to be tempting to take Gibbs above Bijan. But the talent in Bijan is just too much of a difference maker to me to drop. So I think you made the right pick. But yeah, I am gonna go Jahmyr Gibbs. I love Jahmyr Gibbs to the Eagles. It's really kind of the one missing piece for them. Like if they add Gibbs to that team, I think that they're gonna be really really good next year. They have a great offensive line, like you said, and Gibbs. I mean, he does so much. In the passing game as well, that I think he's really gonna rack up fantasy points in that offense. So yeah, so I'll go Gibbs with the 102.
Yep, and then now I think that those are kind of like the clear two, and I'm looking at our quarterbacks and receivers now here. I think are the next two positions to look at. And we've got Will Levis going at number 2 to the Texans. You've got C.J. Stroud at 4 to the Colts. And then very interesting here, you have Bryce Young falling to 16 to the Commanders. So kind of like you said this before we started, kind of a world where the NFL is concerned about his size. And he kind of drops a little bit.
Yeah, when I've heard some rumors about that, so I wouldn't say it's like fully outside the realm of possibility, especially if like his pro day or combine numbers, his weight is lower than what people want it to be.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'll just take Stroud because he's already my QB1 and I like the landing spot. And I like him more than Levis. So I think that'll be an easy pick for me, and then I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, so maybe the first 4 picks of our drafts are going to be very consistently the same for like and that's because it is kind of a locked in top 4, at least for me. I actually love this landing spot with the Commanders for Bryce Young, throwing to Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. I mean, I think that's a great offense for him to be in. So I love the Bryce Young landing spot. Bryce Young's my number 1 quarterback. Even with Will Levis going 102, I said this on a last mock. I think Will Levis needs to be in a good situation to succeed, and the Texans are not necessarily going to be that. Now maybe they develop, into that, and Will Levis, develops alongside the Texans for the next couple of years. I do think they'll have a good O line at least, especially with who they drafted in this draft with Skoronski at 12. So hopefully he's not thrown completely into the fire. Maybe they keep Brandon Cooks, but even with all that, I really like just kind of the established landing spot for Bryce Young with the Commanders. I've always been saying the last couple of years that the Commanders feel like very close to being a good team. So I feel like Bryce Young could be the difference maker for them.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. That landing spot, being able to throw to Terry McLaurin is very enticing. So now here I'm looking at receivers now, and there's a lot of interesting spots. You've got Quentin Johnston went to the Panthers at 9, then Addison to the Titans at 11, JSN to the Vikings, Hyatt to the Ravens, Flowers even went here to the Giants. So all decent spots that I like. But I'm just gonna have to stick with my number 1 guy in this class, and I'll go with Jordan Addison. He's gonna be coming into a space where it's only Treylon Burks. Obviously, not a high volume passing offense, but if you can carve out a role as the 1, I think that's still a pretty good spot for Jordan Addison.
Yeah, he's very much like the opposite of Traylon Burks in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good pairing. It's a very interesting pairing.
Hmm.
Don't hate the landing spot outside of like the quarterback situation there.
Yeah.
Um, to me, it's interesting that we've done our rankings. We are kind of sticking to our number ones, but I love this landing spot for Jackson Smith and Jigba. He does go later than some of the wide receivers on the board here. He goes at 23 to the Vikings. And obviously, he's going to be coming into a situation where Justin Jefferson is the number one guy. So maybe that'd be a cause for concern. But this is an offense that has proven that they can support two number one wide receivers with Thielen in his prime and Justin Jefferson. And I think that we asked, what does Jackson Smith and Jigba look like without someone to take that attention away? Well, Justin Jefferson, talk about somebody to take attention away, right? So I think like he could just wreck under, kind of the undercut situation while Jefferson is pulling safeties in the second layer. Like I think this could be just a deadly combination. Both of these guys could be number one wide receivers like you see with Chase and T. Higgins. So I love that spot for Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I'm going to take him with my pick.
Yeah, and now still back to me, nothing changing. Still looking at QB and receiver, and I think I am gonna go quarterback here, but I'm not gonna go with the number 2 pick in Will Levis. I'm gonna go with Anthony Richardson, who went 19 to the Buccaneers, and this is super flex, so that's definitely part of the reason why I'm going Anthony Richardson here. I do think that Anthony Richardson will probably need a year to develop, but you know, Kyle Trask is the only guy that the Buccaneers have right now, and he's going to be thrust into that starting spot. Richardson is, and there's no better receivers to have than Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as your starting duo. That's a pretty good duo to have. And then you've also got, uh, you know, the I'm blanking on his name, Rashad White, receiving
Mm-hmm.
can receive
Mm-hmm.
catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think it's a good crew to have there, and just a upside player for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think we both agree that Anthony Richardson has a ton of upside. So I think that's a good potential situation for him to develop. Obviously, there's question marks around what are they going to do with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin next year. I know there's conversation about cutting one of those guys, or moving on from one of those guys. So it'll be interesting, but I do love his talent. I think you can't pass up the upside there. Um, there's a couple players. Uh, no, I don't want to tip my hand too much because I don't want you to take them. I don't want to. I don't want you to take them if I don't take them. Uh, I am gonna hold off on Will Levis. Honestly, with this landing spot and kind of how I feel about Will Levis, I wouldn't be surprised if he fell to the second
Yeah.
in this mock. So I'm not really pushing to get Will Levis right now. Obviously, quarterback is valuable, so we'll still take him early. But I'm probably going to look to wide receiver, running back. Too early to take a tight end still. This is like what, the
8.
107, 106,
108.
108.
Yeah.
So, yeah, late first round. To me, at the 108, if I can get this guy, I'd be ecstatic. And that's going to be Quentin Johnston. I talked in my wide receiver episode about how I love Quentin Johnston. I think the Panthers are a pretty good situation for him to come in. Obviously, they didn't take a quarterback here, so there's no like top line quarterback. But I'm gonna assume that they're able to get somebody good in free agency. Maybe they bring in Derek Carr or Jimmy G or something like that. I think Quentin Johnston is a great counterpart to DJ Moore and could even be the one over DJ Moore. So I think this is a place he can be the wide receiver one. I think he can develop here. He could probably, show the success of like early Kelvin Benjamin, hopefully. Um, yeah, I really like the talent there. Can't pass it up at 108. So I'm going to go Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, and I'm gonna dip right back into receiver because I
Yeah.
kind of share
Ooh,
the same
nice.
concerns that you do about Will Levis and the Texans and that just not being a great spot for him. But I'm gonna go
Hmm.
Zay Flowers because he goes to this Giants team that desperately needs
Oh, yeah.
help, and I mean, just an incredible player for them to get at 25, especially with their receiving core being Wandale Robinson and Isaiah Hodgins, Zay Flowers is going to come in and instantly, help this team out where they desperately need it. So
Love that pick. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Zay Flowers is in the NFL. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. So,
mhm.
and I think the Giants are a great spot for him. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go back to. All right, you didn't pick my guy, thankfully. So I'm glad I didn't tip my hand. I'm going to go back to the same team, and I'm going to
Yeah.
get Zach Charbonnet
Yeah,
to the
I was
Panthers.
looking at it. I was looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. We both love Zach Charbonnet. I think he has. I think this is another just underrated guy. I think he has great pass catching and running ability. I think he's physical, and the Panthers really. I mean, they have nobody at running back. Deontay Foreman and the other guy that they have from Oklahoma State.
Chuba
Uh,
Hubbard.
Chuba Hubbard, neither. I think Deontay Foreman was good last year, but neither of these guys have run away with that job. So
Yeah.
that's wide open. Zach Charbonnet easily comes in here, especially if they have a quarterback like Jimmy G or Derek Carr. They could easily lean on the running game. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Zach Charbonnet to the Panthers. I think that's a great spot. So that's gonna be my pick with the 110.
Yeah, I mean to get a talent like Zach Charbonnet in a role where he's going to be the sole guy essentially at the
Yeah, I
110
think I
is
think he's
incredible
going to be
value.
a bell cow back there.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. He went in the second round here, so good draft capital as well.
yeah. All right, so now back to me here at the 111, and I know we were just talking about tight end, and I'm in too much
It's a
in
good
love
spot
with this
though. It's a
landing
good
spot
spot.
here.
Yeah.
Michael Mayer, I really do think he's going to be a great tight end, just an absolutely solid player that there's zero chance of him busting in my opinion. I think just a solid floor, decent upside kind of player. And when he goes to the Chargers, you have Kellen Moore coming over as the OC, who heavily used Dalton Schultz, and just Justin Herbert's tendencies to the tight end. I think this is a perfect spot. They don't go receiver. Is Keenan Allen going to get cut? Could we already see a big bump for a guy like Michael Mayer, who could really soak up those vacated targets if Keenan Allen's gone? So I think this is just an
Hmm.
amazing spot where, yes, I think tight end you can kind of wait for this class, but to get something so rock solid, in my opinion, right here at the 111, I like it too much to pass up on.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is probably the best spot you could get for Michael Mayer. So that's a good spot. Okay, I'm looking at what's left on the board here. There's one wide receiver. Well, okay, so I see Jalen Hyatt to the Ravens. He's kind of the wide receiver that's left who was drafted in the first round. I think we've already picked all the other first round wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, I don't think Jalen Hyatt's really a great fit with the Ravens.
Yeah.
They tried kind of the speed guy with Hollywood Brown, and it didn't really work. So I don't know that I love that pick, just with kind of how the team is set up now. Um, and honestly, quarterback's too valuable in Superflex, so I'm going to go ahead and just take Will Levis here. I mean, to get the quarterback drafted at 102 at the back of the first round with the
Mm-hmm.
112 it's honestly very good value. It's something I might have to wait on a little bit. He might not be great right away. But I mean, quarterback, and I'm at the 112, so maybe I'm a team that won this year, and maybe my quarterbacks were Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers, or two older quarterbacks that did better than that. Maybe Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins or something. If I have old quarterbacks, I gotta, I would need to find a solution, but maybe not right away, especially if it's kind of Rodgers, Stafford. Maybe I think I could push a couple more years. So I get Will Levis, I'm gonna stick him on my taxi squad. I'm gonna hope that he kind of develops. I see all the tools there. I see the potential, and I think the Texans are on the up and up. So I'm hopeful that with that coaching staff, he can really excel. So I'm gonna go Will Levis 112.
Yep. So back to me at the 201 now, and we've pretty much taken all of the skill position players in the first round except for Dalton Kincaid of the Bengals, which I think is
And Jalen
also
Hyatt, yeah,
a pretty
I just
oh, and
mentioned.
Jalen Hyatt, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I think there could be better landing spots for Jalen Hyatt, like the Chargers or even the Vikings
Chargers
or
is
the
probably the
Giants.
best, yeah.
So to me, I'm gonna take a guy here that I know you're gonna take if I don't take him right now, and that's Devin A. Chain, who goes in the second
Yeah,
round to the
I got him
Cowboys.
last time. It's the same landing spot as our last
Yeah,
mock draft.
yeah. So I think this is just a pretty good landing spot because right now you've got. I do believe that Tony Pollard's a free agent, and they're possibly thinking about cutting Zeke if they don't restructure him. So right now that running back room is kind of up in the air, and to take a running back here in the second round, who I do like as a player, he's my running back 8, but I think if he gets second round capital, that's going to be really good for a speed demon like A Chain.
100%. Which this leaves me in a tough spot. Obviously Jalen Hyatt is my number 4 wide receiver, so I don't hate him that much. I'm not going to let him fall too far, even with the landing spot. We can never let landing spot be too, speak too much over how we make decisions, right? We at the end of the day we still have to stick to who the talent that we see in these players. But I'm looking around at some other players, trying to look for something else that might be interesting. I see, I'm just looking at these wide receiver landing spots. I see Hendon Hooker to the Saints, which, is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I might be able to wait on that a little bit more. Let's look at some of the running back spots, see if there's anything else that I might want.
Yeah, and I
I
mean just
don't
to
really see much else. So and I just love the talent with Jalen Hyatt. He's both of our number 4 wide receiver. I think he's got game breaking speed. And I haven't necessarily see that be a part of the Ravens offense before, but obviously Lamar's a great quarterback. I believe in Lamar. I think he can support a strong passing offense. And it's first round capital. You don't want to. I mean, so many people made the mistake of passing up on Jahan Dotson last year because they thought it was a bad landing spot. And at the end of the day, first round draft capital for a wide receiver in the second is valuable. So I'm gonna just go ahead and take Jalen Hyatt with the 202.
yeah.
I
So
can't let it fall too far.
yeah, I mean I like the pick. I think that's a pretty good spot to get him in. Now I'm in an even more of an interesting spot here because
Yeah, I kind of took the last obvious pick, I think.
yeah, and now some of the running backs that I really do like kind of have fallen a lot here. So
Yeah.
it's more of a debate on do I reach and do I wait? Can I get certain guys? And there's not too much here for me. I mean, I'm looking at Josh Downs, second round capital to the Saints. Because who knows? Jarvis Landry is going to be he's a free agent. Are they going to bring back Michael Thomas? Um, I do think Dalton Kincaid is a pretty juicy spot to the Bengals. So I think I
hmm
am going to go, despite all the tight end talk, I think the way this draft board has just fallen, I think there are too good of spots to pass up on with kind of no real obvious choices at running back and receiver. So I'm going to go Kincaid.
Yeah, I haven't started my tight end evaluations yet, but I've heard, Kincaid is close to Michael Mayer, so probably closer than people originally thought.
Yeah.
And the Bengals, obviously, that passing offense is electric. So that is a good spot, I think. That leaves me with the next pick. Like you said, it is. We are kind of getting into that place where it's interesting, and so now I really am starting to look for upside. And the player with the most upside in this draft, I think, is Kayshon Boutte.
Yep.
And Kayshon Boutte to the Patriots, that's a team that really has. I mean, they have nothing. They have no wide receivers, honestly. They have Jacoby Myers, who's a good wide receiver 2/3. And Devontae Parker was nothing, after they brought him in. I think that Bill Belichick is somebody who's not going to put up with Butte's nonsense. I think this is probably one of the better landing spots for him as far as a team that can, put him in a good environment. Look at what they did with Antonio Brown. I mean, he was literally insane at that point,
Yeah.
and they were able to manage him well. And so I think Butte to the Patriots is one of the better landing spots he could have ended up in. I like this pick. And again, just the upside there is huge. So I think getting Butte at the 204, I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah. And now back to me here. I'm kind of looking, and I'm not really seeing too much that I like here in the second round. I think Butte was a pretty good value pick there for the receiver room that New England's got.
Yeah, he went in the second
Yeah.
to the New England Patriots. Yeah.
Josh Downs, I'm still not. I
It's
don't know.
interesting. It's
Yeah,
interesting. It's good draft capital, right?
it is really good
He's
draft
going
capital.
early second to the Saints.
Not a terrible spot. I'm seeing Rashee Rice here to the Bills, which I don't. I think it's all right, but I think a lot of people fall into this trap where they see a
Yeah, Bills are
receiver go to
good.
the.
Therefore, anything for the Bills will be.
Yeah, they see the receivers, like the Chiefs or the Bills. They take a receiver. Oh my God, we got to have this guy, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Um, but I'm gonna take a receiver here, and I'm gonna take a guy that we both really love, Cedric
Oh man,
Tillman.
I was just thinking about doing that with my next
Yeah.
pick.
So Tillman goes here in the top of the third, to the not top, middle of the third to the Packers. And even though it's looking more and more likely day by day that Aaron Rodgers won't be the quarterback there, I still think you've got a pretty good shot if you're Cedric Tillman to go in and kind of take control of that to get it at least the number 2 spot, maybe ahead of Dubs. But so I like the spot there, and I like the player even more. So now we're near in the middle of the second round. You've got pick 6 here, and are there any players jumping out at you?
To be honest, some of the guys that I'm high on, some of the running backs I'm really high on, like Sean Tucker,
Hmm.
into the Lions, which I don't like. Like I think Sean Tucker to the Lions, we saw what Jamal Williams did last year, but I think, and so obviously he's probably coming in. Well, I'm about to talk myself into this. Like Jamal Williams looked great there. I don't know. This might be my pick. I'm gonna talk it out. But obviously Jamal Williams looked great for the Lions last year. But the concern is, there's a player there that we've all like. The hype is continual around him.
Hmm.
And it's like, is this going to be the year that he finally puts it together? I can never remember the names of players while I'm actually
DeAndre
like
Swift.
potting, But yeah, DeAndre Swift. And so it's like, does DeAndre Swift put it together this year? Does he? I mean, last year it was mostly injuries, kind of that held him back. But you start to question, is he ever going to put it together? But that's the worry for me, right? He is walking to a place where he's going to be a number 2 running back. Now I do think he's a great counterpart to DeAndre Swift. He brings kind of the speed, whereas DeAndre Swift's going to get you the pass catching ability. Though Sean Tucker's got good pass catching as well, but I'm not sure about that. I see Roshan to the Bucks. I love Roshan as well. He went at 82 right after Sean Tucker. This is in the third round. But the Bucks are a crowded running back room right now. It looks like they might hold on to Fournette. They've got Rashad White there still. I don't think Roshan has the skill to come in and beat out those guys, even though I like Roshan. So that one's tough for me too. See Kendry Miller to the Chiefs at 95. These are all the third round running backs, basically. That's interesting. Obviously, I think that'd be a good counterpart to Pacheco. You get somebody who can really move between the tackles, maybe first and second down back, and Pacheco maybe becomes more of a speed / third down back. But I'm going to be honest. I got to pick my guy. I got to pick somebody who's going to walk into a situation where I think he has potential to be the one, maybe even be the one this year. And I know the draft capital is not great, but I got to go Tank Bigsby to the Saints in the 5th round. Those other guys, they're all walking into kind of a muddy situation, right? Those are the other guys I'm high on, Roshan and Sean Tucker. Kendra, not so much, but still, like all those guys are going into a place where we know there's going to be competition. But Kamara, I mean, he's going to be suspended this year probably because of the altercation at the Pro Bowl. And then after that, I mean, I think his contract's up after this year, right? So
Yeah.
either way, he's getting old. The
Mhm.
Saints are looking for a replacement. And I think that this could be honestly one of the best situations for Tank Bigsby to walk into, somewhere where you can have fifth round capital, but then show your skills once you're on the team and really make a name for yourself. So I love this spot for him. I know it might be a little early to take a fifth round running back, but you got him last time, and I can't let you get him again. So I'm
I
going to go ahead and take Tank Bigsby.
I think it's an amazing pick, especially with you said where Kamara will most likely be suspended, if not all the games, some games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly where a rookie running back can kind of step up and show what he can do and prove to the
Yeah,
team that,
even though he's got the late capital, he
yeah,
might get a chance to prove himself, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. So now I'm looking here, and I'm the same as you. I'm I'm looking at some of these spots here, and I'm looking at some of the running backs taken here in the third, and I'm not the biggest fan of Sean Tucker, Kendre Miller. There's some other guys that I like more than him. I do like the spot, but I think I'm gonna have to go with another wide receiver, my guy of ours that we both really like, and that's gonna be
I'm
Marvin
taking all of
Mims.
them.
I'm taking Marvin
Oh, yeah.
Mims. He went
Wow.
he went in the fourth round of the Ravens. I think this is a way better spot, or I think it's a better fit than Hyatt is. But
Yeah.
even with them taking Hyatt and then now Mims in the fourth, you still only really have Rashad Bateman in that room. So it's not like it's a
Right.
crowded room going into it.
100%.
So with what Mims can, what he can do, I really like the spot, and I just like the player a lot too. So I think it's a great place for him.
Yeah, that's a great pick. We both love Marvin Mims. We just talked about him in our last wide receiver episode. Um, for me, I think I'm going to go ahead and take, the last wide receiver that we talked about in episode off the board. He went a lot earlier than some of these players we just talked about. He went early second. I'm going to take Josh Downs to the Saints, going pick number 40 in round two. Just love that draft capital. I think the Saints are a team that can use him well. It's a team where Chris Olave is really the only other guy there. I don't think Michael Thomas is going to be much of anything anymore. And so I think a slot guy to pair with Olave is a good fit. Josh Downs is a great slot guy. We both love Josh Downs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like we don't have anything just because he was low in our rankings doesn't mean we don't love this guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go ahead and pick him. I love the draft capital, love that spot. I think he has at least an opportunity to make a name for himself across from Olave as the wide receiver two there. So yeah, Josh Downs can be my pick.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick there for you. And now I'm left
We're,
here.
we're both like scouring the board as the other
Yeah,
one
I'm
picks.
just
So
kind
it's
of
like
I'm ping-ponging,
it's like oh,
looking
what
at-
did you say? I'm like
Yeah.
I know.
So now I'm here sitting. I think Hendon Hooker is a pretty decent spot. Back of the second to take
Oh,
him.
yeah.
I like the spot.
I
with the
forgot about
Saints.
that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Saints, Hendon Hooker, Josh Downs, Tank
Tank
Bigsby,
Bigsby, Chris
like
Olave.
great draft.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I think it is a really good draft for them.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I see Deuce Vaughn here to the third. I just don't think he's a
Yeah,
little.
I
He's
just
too
don't want
small.
anything to do with that, honestly.
Yeah.
To the
Falcons.
Falcons. It's
Uh,
like I guess you could see him coming in and trying to play that Cordero Patterson role, but
yeah,
I'm just nervous about that.
man. I think we've really got some great tight end landing spots in this draft. I mean, you look at Sam Laporta
Oh no, I
to the
was gonna, what?
Dolphins.
Oh,
You look at Tucker Kraft to the Panthers, who's probably the guy
Yeah.
you're talking about now. I
no,
think,
there's another guy that I'm looking
I
at.
think that's a great spot. You're probably looking at Darnell Washington, who I think he went in the second.
Oh,
I'm
not
not
that
mistaken.
one. Not that one. Maybe you won't pick my
Luke,
tight end.
Luke Musgrave, I also see in the second round here to
Yeah, that's
But
I love Luke Musgrave. Yeah, I
mhm,
haven't evaluated tight ends yet, but he's kind of my like favorite pre-evaluation.
yeah,
And I think the Jags like come in and maybe replace Evan Ingram.
yeah.
Like you saw how Evan Ingram was used last year. But I'm giving away my picks now. It's not even my
Yeah, with
turn.
that being said, I'm taking Luke Musgrave. No, I am gonna go. I'm gonna go Hendon Hooker here. I think in the third round to the Saints. I don't think it's out of the possibility that he's the guy going into Week 1. If they release
Oh yeah,
Jameis,
it's not. Well,
maybe
if
they
he's
bring back
healthy.
Andy Dalton on a cheap
I
deal,
don't know
and
how.
then
I don't know if he'll be ready with the ACL tear by then. But
yeah, exactly, you're right. But maybe they bring back Dalton, then ride him out
yeah,
until
just for a few games, and then once he
so.
sucks, they let Hendon Hooker play.
Yeah, so
I
I
could
I could
see
see
that.
that.
I
Yeah.
could see that.
So I think
Andy
back of the
Dalton
second
for
here,
a little bit.
210. I think that's pretty good value for Hendon Hooker with a good landing spot.
Nice. I thought I was the evens. So maybe it was the 209.
Oh no, it was the 10. No.
Oh, okay. Because you should be on the
Oh
odds.
no. You're right. You're right. It is the 209 for me. I'm
Okay.
mistaken.
Cool. No worries.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. You got me thinking about tight ends. I see in the second round, I see Darnell Washington to the Lions. Obviously, they need a tight end after moving on from TJ Hawkinson. They don't have anybody there at the tight end position, so he'd be
Yeah.
walking into an absolutely great opportunity. Luke Musgrave, again, he's kind of my guy in this tight end class. Uh, Oh, screw it. I think I'm just going to have to take Luke Musgrave here. I don't want you to take him now that I said that's who I want. So I love this landing spot to the Jags. Evan Ingram was a monster in this offense last year, and I think that Luke Musgrave brings a lot of those same skills. Like he brings the speed, the agility that Evan Ingram has. And, they can kind of move. This is a team that has to pay a lot of players with all those free agents that they brought in. So I could see them moving on from Evan Ingram and giving the reins to Luke Musgrave, especially if they spend a second round pick on him. So that's going to be my pick. I'm going to go ahead and grab a tight end. It's the 210, so late second for what I think is honestly one of the best tight end situations. I like it.
Yeah, and like you said, you were going to be planning on holding for the tight ends. You've got a guy that you really like late in the
Yeah.
second, going to
He's
a
probably my
really good
favorite one in the
spot.
class late in the second. Yeah.
Yeah, so good for you. Patience on waiting. You got to wait. You got a guy that you liked in the 210. Good value there. Now I'm looking here. I'm stalling a little bit because it's getting a little obscure. But I think there's one guy here. He went at the top of the 4. I'm gonna take Zach Evans. He went to the Cardinals. And I think this is a pretty good spot because right now he goes into a room with James Conner, who I believe is on the final
Mm-hmm.
year of his contract. And then Keontae Ingram is there as well, but I'm not too worried about that. So I think, especially James Conner, he has had injuries in the past, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that Zach Evans can come in year 1 and have some impact. So I think it's decent capital for a running back. Round 4 now it's not too late of capital for running backs. We've talked about how it's gotten pushed back. Their teams are taking running backs later and later now. So Zach Evans here to me, he's my running back 6 in the class, and he goes to a pretty good spot. So I like Zach Evans here at the 211. And back to you now to
Yeah.
finish off the second round.
So I'm wrapping up the second round here. I'm looking at It's a couple players that are interesting to me. I see a couple wide receivers. I don't want to. I don't want to give too much away. Let's see. That's interesting. I think I'm gonna go with one of my guys at running back. I talked about it a little bit before. I think that we might have before last year said that the Lions was not a great situation for a running back, and then we saw what Jamal Williams did. I think that there is a lot of opportunity, especially if DeAndre Swift underwhelms like he did last year, for Sean Tucker to come in and prove himself. And it's possible they might even move on from DeAndre Swift and keep Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
If DeAndre Swift kind of continues to be not what we all hoped. I think DeAndre Swift's value's gone down a lot after last year, I know, in trades. So I'm going to go ahead and get Sean Tucker. He's my guy in the running back position. He went in the third round, which is pretty good draft capital for him. That's one of my worries for him is that he won't get good draft capital. So yeah, Sean Tucker to the Lions. It's a growing offense. I like this spot for him.
Yeah. And I mean, even now here at the 212, if you're a team that has DeAndre Swift and Sean Tucker goes in the third round here, Jamal Williams is gone. He's a free agent. They get Sean Tucker as their running back too. It wouldn't be a terrible idea to just handcuff or, take him as your backup. So
I have the 212 in our main dynasty, and if I got Sean Tucker with the 212, I would be so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So honestly, if you can see, we're starting to see. Even at the back of the second, I'm happy with some of these picks. So there's a lot of depth in this class.
Yeah, and
there's some good running back positions we haven't even picked yet.
Yeah, and we'll go third round here. We did two last time. We'll do three.
Yeah, because we actually know more players now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit easier too, and there's still some good players here that we've got on the board. So to start out here, the third round, I'm looking at tight ends here. Still, there's some good ones.
Yeah, the tight end is when you can feast on. The third round's when you can feast on tight ends for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still one guy that I really like here in the third round that got some good capital. We didn't talk about him. We haven't talked about him yet on any of our episodes.
This is gonna be my next pick. I'm pretty sure. Who I think you're gonna pick.
And I'm taking Tyler Scott.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next pick. I almost picked him instead of Tucker.
Cincinnati receiver. He goes to the Chargers here in the middle of the third round. I think it's really good. Like we were saying before, we don't know what's going on with Keenan Allen, if they're going to cut him or not. Mike Williams kind of gets banged up, so they need some guys. They've got Michael Mayer there, but bringing in Tyler Scott kind of is that speedy guy that, Jalen Guyton kind of played that role for them maybe, and maybe Tyler Scott can do more of that. He's more of a slot guy, but I really like Tyler Scott. I think you'll hear more about him on the Sleepers episode from me, but yeah, Tyler Scott right now, that is the 301. And then back to you.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Tyler Scott was my pick, so I'm scrambling. I'm in full tilt right now, trying to find who I'm going to take. Let's see. There are some interesting tight end landing spots still. You mentioned a few of them. Porta to the Dolphins is interesting. They're going to move on. Gesicki's going to be playing somewhere else this year. He's a free agent. Hunter Long hasn't done anything. I don't know that I believe he will do anything. Tucker Kraft to the Panthers is another great spot. That's a team that's been looking for a solution at tight end for years now and has yet to really pick anybody that's done anything for them. We saw some flashes from the guy, I can't even remember his name, that they drafted a couple years ago.
Or Ian Thomas?
No, after Ian Thomas, the other guy that they took from Notre Dame. I don't remember his name.
Tommy Tremble.
Tommy Tremble, yeah. We saw some flashes from Tommy Tremble, but nothing that's to say that guy's got the job.
Yeah.
So Tucker Kraft is also interesting. Also, Darnell Washington had great draft capital in middle of the second round, and the Lions have nobody at tight end. That being said, I really want to hammer this deep running back class now that we're in the third round. We've talked about how deep this class is, and there are still guys on the board here that are interesting to me. And it's not going to be guys that are picked in the third, not guys picked in the fourth. Maybe the third. I don't know. Let's see. But there's an early guy we still haven't picked, Deuce Vaughn, and I think the Falcons picked that really small guy a few years ago too, and didn't use him at all. So I really am skeptical of that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with Kendre Miller here, though. Kendre Miller's not really my guy, But you like him. I trust your evaluation. And it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Like,
Yeah.
we know that that offense is going to be explosive. Um, he's going to play the role that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been playing, but was never designed to play, of like the first and down back with Isaiah Pacheco, probably moving to more of a third down backs type, gadget play type guy. I think that's a better fit for Pacheco. Pacheco has not great draft capital. This is always the concern
Yeah.
for guys with not draft capital. This is why you're hearing in all your podcasts that you should think about selling Isaiah Pacheco this offseason,
Mm-hmm.
because this can happen, right? They bring in somebody who has more draft capital and really takes over the job. I think it's a great opportunity for Kendre Miller. So that's what I'm going to take. Like I said, even though I don't love this guy, this this situation specifically is a good fit for what I saw on tape, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, really like the pick there. That would definitely have been my next pick. But now that you've got him, I took Michael Mayer, and I even took Kincaid in the early second. But I don't really like the taking a guy in the mid to late second. I'd rather wait in the third if you don't get that first round capital guy. And I think right now is a good spot to get a guy like Tucker Kraft, who I do like from the small sample size I've seen of his tape. I think he's a pretty decent player. And with third round capital going to the Panthers, a team that really hasn't had tight end and needs tight end, I think this could be their guy that they finally found one. So I'm going to go Tucker Kraft there.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I haven't watched much on the tight ends yet, so honestly, some of these later tight ends, I'm a little bit scared to take because I really can't say much about them because I don't know much what to see. So instead, I'm going to counteract that by going with one of the earlier tight ends that I do know a little bit about. I'm going to take Darnell Washington to the Lions. Again, I've said it because I almost picked him the last couple of times, but this is a spot where he's going to be, immediately have a lot of opportunity. He was able to produce even across from Brock Bowers at Georgia, which is saying a lot for what he can do. A massive target at tight end. So and the Lions need more big targets. Really, they're kind of funneling the offense through Amon-Ra St. Brown and maybe DeAndre Swift. They don't really have kind of that big end zone target. So
yeah. I'm just starting to get a little worried on Darnell Washington because of the size. He's much bigger. He's 6'7", I believe 270. Whereas you really see like a prototypical NFL size receiver, especially the top guys that are, scoring more of the fantasy points. They're like 6'5", 250, around that range. And you kind of worry, and most especially with the Lions, if he goes there, is he going to be like dedicated to a primary blocking role where he really won't see as much fantasy value?
I mean, they have a very solid O-line, so it's not necessarily like a place that needs O-line
Yeah,
help.
but if you had Darnell Washington do it, you're going to be able to
He's
run the
big
ball.
though. Yeah,
You're going to be able to run him.
Hey, maybe that's good for Sean Tucker, but yeah, that's definitely a concern. And I will say, he's definitely probably a guy you're looking at touchdowns. You're hoping that he's a touchdown guy. But it's third round, right? So I'm willing to take the risk on him being a big touchdown guy, and kind of sneaking into a top 12 tight end season every now and then.
I mean, I will say, as much as I am worried, I do think it would be very fun if he worked out. Having a 6'7", 270 guy, something that sticks into my head, what I've watched of him just kind of hurdling over people. The fact that he's 6'7", 270 and he can hurdle guys.
It's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I know. It's so back to me here now. I think I'm just gonna keep I'm looking down
Just
here in the
get
late,
Laporta.
yeah, I'm looking down here in the later rounds, and I actually, I'm gonna go receiver. I was gonna go Laporta, but I'm gonna go receiver because there's another guy here in the third that I think is a pretty good player, decent spot. It's Jaden Reed He goes
Yeah,
in
I've
the
been looking at that. I like that spot.
he goes in the
With a
back of the
comp
third.
pick, with one of their mini comp picks from all the coaches Houston took from them.
Yeah. So the 49ers are going to go Jaden Reed here, and I think it's a good spot for him to kind of develop, and I think, you know,
It's a good system for him, I
yeah,
think.
really good system. If there's a place where they can kind of scheme him up and use him well, it's the 49ers. So I like the possibility of what he can do with Kyle Shanahan. I think the upside is pretty good there with that pick.
All right, I'm going to take a guy that I've kind of been looking at. He's been kind of rolling around in my mind as a player I might take. I don't love the draft capital that he got, but I really like this spot on a team that needs offensive weapons. And it's going to be Kenny McIntosh to the Patriots at the back of the fourth. I really like Kenny McIntosh as a pass catching running back. We've seen what the Patriots can do with pass catching running backs. Bill Belichick is still there, so he likes to stick to his guns, right? We saw it when he brought all those tight ends in. He wants to build the same offense that had success with Brady. So, wouldn't be surprised if they lean on him as a pass catching counterpart to Ramondre Stevenson. Damian Harris is going to be gone, and they keep bringing in these small type guys. They brought in Pierre Strong last year, but we saw flashes from Pierre Strong, but I think Kenny McIntosh has more pass catching, explosive ability. So I'm confident that he can come in and be that guy there. In the third round, I'm pretty happy with that pick. So I'm going to say Kenny McIntosh.
Yeah, I think that's a decent pick there where they don't really have that kind of clear, fully specialized third down guy. They had James White last year, or no, I James White retired, but they had him on the roster initially, and then he retired.
Yeah, they were using Ty Montgomery
Ty
last year, but he
Montgomery,
was he was pretty productive in that as
yeah,
well, honestly. So
yeah, like they've always had their guy like Brandon Bolden previously,
mhm.
and then he left to the Raiders. But so I
it,
think
it feels like a good spot for a pass catching type running back. So
yeah. So now here I'm looking at some of the guys that I can get in the fifth, maybe even sixth round. But there's a pretty decent running back spot here, and although I think we were a little bit lower on him in our initial top 12 running back ranking, I'm gonna take Chase Brown because I think it's a pretty decent spot here in the fourth. One of the highest remaining draft capital guys that isn't Deuce Vaughn, who we just were too afraid of the size there, even though he's got that capital. Um,
I don't know what to do with this Vaughn.
yeah,
I think about it every time I see it. I'm like,
yeah. So, but I do think Chase Brown goes to a really good spot here where, you know,
well, and
who's
Dwayne McBride, he's in the third round
oh yeah, well
to the
yeah,
Ravens.
Dwayne McBride goes to the Ravens. I'm not touching that. Um, but yeah, so Chase Brown goes to the Giants here, and I couldn't even tell you. I think their backup is isn't it Gary Brightwell, I believe.
Yeah, Brightwell.
So basically a nobody, and if right now Saquon is still not under contract, I would assume they work that out. But if not, then Chase Brown is going to be their lead back going into the season unless they sign someone. So just with what we've got in this mock right now, I think it's a pretty good spot for him to be a backup. And, in the middle of the third round here as a handcuff to Saquon, not bad.
Getting a quality handcuff in the third round is really it's something I even will target sometimes because it's like, do you want that guy who, a lot of those guys in the third round are backups anyways, so are you going to try to pick somebody who you think might be able to be not a backup because of the situation, or are you going to just go with someone who knows a backup but a quality handcuff in a situation where, you know, handcuffs to Saquon have produced, right? We've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that pick. I think that's a smart pick. I don't love Chase Brown, but we didn't hate him. We liked him a lot more than some of the other running backs we evaluated.
Yeah.
So, what pick are we on? I'm just out of
We are
curiosity.
currently on the 20
Or three something, right? In the
208
third round. 308.
308, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start looking at some of these guys with high draft capital now, just because draft capital is king in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Our evaluations are one thing, but when somebody gets draft capital, unless it's a guy I hate, I'm gonna stop and consider that. I've learned not to take the guys I hate, like David Bell and Anthony Schwartz, these guys I knew wouldn't be good, But if there's a guy I'm like 50-50 on and the NFL says that they're good, then that certainly means something to me. And I'm going to actually go back into the second round and take Rashee Rice to the Bills here. I know that there's been some kind of negative press around Rashee Rice, but I think both you and I, when we watched the tape, we didn't see really anything terrible. He was dominant at SMU. I think pairing a guy like Rashee Rice with Stephon Diggs is a smart move for the Bills. Obviously this is an offense where the touchdowns often go to Josh Allen running it in. So, and Stephon Diggs takes a lot of volume. So it's a big question mark, but Stephon Diggs is getting older. And if Rashee Rice can replicate some of the skills I saw on tape, he could be, the next number one Bills wide receiver, right? So I'm willing to take that shot at ceiling this late in the third round.
Yeah. And I think that's a decent value on him, especially if he works out. Second round capital for Rashee Rice going to the Bills, where it's a very efficient offense, even though you mostly have the two guys there scoring and Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, but if he can carve out a role for himself that no one else has really been able to, it's good spot for him to fall there.
And like I said, we're looking for ceiling at the back of the third, and somebody on a high powered offense like that, I'm willing to take the risk with a eighth pick of the third round, right?
Yeah. And here I'm gonna take one of my guys that's kind of fallen in this mock draft. He goes in the 6th round. Israel Abanikanda goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But like we said, if you can get an amazing handcuff in the late third in a draft, then this is a great spot to take Abanikanda just based off of what I've seen on the talent. And it's just a shame that he didn't go earlier to a spot where he could have kind of taken a role. Like if he went to Atlanta, that would have been great for him. But going here, I still like the player, so I'm going to take him as a handcuff kind of to the person that I cannot remember the name of because I'm blanking right now.
Tyler Algier.
No. The Jacksonville
you're
Jaguars.
saying Travis Etienne.
Travis Etienne, yes. So.
It's so hard to remember things when you're also trying to pick
to...
and talk about it and
yeah.
Oh man. It's tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's slim pickings right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's two guys I'm interested in picking still. And I'm somewhat confident that you're not gonna pick them. So I'm trying to decide if I want to wait or take one or what. Man, it's almost silly that we would go this whole draft and not pick Deuce Vaughn with third round draft capital. But I'm honestly just do not know what to think about that.
He just seems like such a 5th, 6th, 7th round kind of, you pick him up on waivers, after the draft,
right.
After your draft is done.
Yeah,
and
it's just so
maybe
confusing.
he becomes some kind of gadget player that's more, but he's probably. It's very tough.
I just don't know what the comp is. I guess Darren Sproles is the comp, right? So it's do the Falcons turn him into Darren Sproles and they replace Cordell Patterson with that type of guy? Do the Falcons even want to have an offense that revolves around a Cordell Patterson guy? I don't think so. I think they just have done it out of necessity because they haven't had anybody else really. So I'm not going to go that way. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take a risk on a guy that I love. And I'm going to take Roschon Johnson here. Pick 82 to the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think it's a situation where he's probably going to be the 3 coming in, which is going to be tough for especially a guy who's been a backup. But we saw him show flashes in the limited time he had at UT. So, I think he could come in and hopefully show some flashes in his first year. Then maybe they move on from Leonard Fournette next year, or maybe they move on this year. I think it's probably likely they keep him this year. But I think that after this year, I think he's a free agent. I think we were just kind of, we were predicting they might cut him this year, which
Yeah.
they still might. No, he's not free agent, still free agent until 2025. But he does have 5 million in dead cap this year.
Hmm.
So, they might cut him next year. He's got an even bigger dead cap next year. I don't think they're going to hold on to him for that long if they have Roshan and Rashad White in the wings.
Yeah.
And I think that Roshan could be a great combo back with Rashad White. We have to accept that in today's NFL, the way to go is young, rookie, committed running backs. There's very few of the bell cow type running backs left in the NFL. And so somebody who goes into a situation where I'm confident that I know the roles that they're going to have, and Rashad White is, to me, really going to be a pass catching back in the NFL. I'm confident that Roshan could be something. I'm just going to take a shot on a my guy for me with 310.
Yeah. And now here at the 311, there's really nothing else I can do than take a guy that we've been overlooking and passing up on this entire draft. And that
no.
is
Who have we been passing up?
the heir to Aaron Rodgers. It's Stetson Bennett with the second to last pick in the entire
Are you
draft.
serious?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
I was like, that's such a bad pick.
yeah, no, it would be a terrible pick. But I am going to dip back
You
in.
just had to point out that the Packers took Stetson Bennett.
Stetson Bennett with the second to last pick, maybe
Almost,
possibly the
Mr.
almost
Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant, and we saw what Brock Purdy did, so maybe. But no, I
That's
am gonna.
hilarious.
I was
I do not like Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
He's a-
I was looking in the set, and I was at the sixth round with Abani Konda, and I'm gonna dip back into that because the Rams take Jonathan Mingo, and obviously the draft capital not good at all. Sixth round receiver, but just off of what I've seen, we didn't talk about him in the receiver episode either, but this is a definite sleeper guy that I love a lot. I know you haven't really gotten to him yet, so very curious to see what your thoughts are going to be when we roll around to that episode. But for now, Jonathan Mingo is kind of one of my guys that I'm really loving in this draft class. And for him to go to the Rams, where I do believe they also took another guy in the sixth year with Andre Iosivas, who I do also kind of like. But, I mean, they've got Cooper Kupp, who, he was hurt. Was it an ACL tear, I believe, for Cooper Kupp?
Yeah.
But for Cooper Kupp injured.
They also took Iosivas and Michael Wilson in the sixth round.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they did.
So
do that.
they're
receivers.
taking three
in-
receivers in the
in
sixth.
the sixth. So Michael Wilson, I'm not as high on. I know a lot of other people are, but for me, Mingo is really that guy, and I think he can kind of show out as opposed to the other two guys there. And who knows with Allen Robinson? Didn't look particularly great last year. They don't really have anything behind Robinson either. So they really need that three. I mean, Van Jefferson there, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's going to really work out too well. So just kind of taking my guy here at the 311, and that's really all you can do when you're at the back of these drafts.
Yeah, and I'm going to do the same thing to somebody that I think is walking into an even better situation with better draft capital, who I like better. And that's going to be Xavier Hutchinson in round 4 to the Chicago Bears. I was pretty confident you wouldn't take him, so I was just saying.
I knew that was going to be your pick.
Okay, yeah. The Bears need wide receivers, right? They need help for Justin Fields. I think there's a big question mark if Darnell Mooney can be a 1. I think Chase Claypool is a big question mark. I don't think that Xavier Hutchinson profiles as a number 1 wide receiver, but I think that this is a room with enough uncertainty that he can come in and play an important part, have an important role on that team. So I like the potential for him to be like a wide receiver 2, 3 type of fantasy player with the Bears. So I'm willing to take a shot there with Xavier Hutchinson, and then I'm going to spend $100 fab on Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's
It's like, and to be like honestly, if Deuce Vaughn went undrafted in this, I'm willing to spend fab on it. Like I don't want to
mhm.
risk a draft pick on it, but
Yeah.
I'll spend $100. I'll spend as much of my like off season fab as I have left on Deuce Vaughn. Like that's just off season fab. So
Yeah. And I will
um,
spend 0 fab on Dwayne McBride.
well, somebody else can have him.
Someone else can have him.
You gonna pick up Sam Laporta? No.
Yeah,
Well, you already picked three tight ends in this box, so
yeah.
maybe you're set.
Yeah, so but that's going to do it for us here. Nice 3-round mock, kind of
Yep.
showing the aftermath of our evaluations in a sense, because we did the first one, when we did the quarterbacks, and now we've got the running backs and receivers done. So kind of showing you where our heads are at, and giving you a good little tool to see how landing spots really fluctuate with some of these players. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba going to the Vikings, kind of skyrockets him up maybe, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to where Jalen Hyatt goes to the Ravens and he falls a little bit. So
Yeah.
kind of really good tools to get used to the habit of drafting before your drafts come around. And we're getting closer to the combine, which means we're getting even closer to the real NFL draft, and it's just a lot of
Oh,
fun
I'm so
times. So
excited.
yeah, it's as we get closer and closer to April here, we'll be keeping you in touch with some more of our great Dynasty content. So subscribe and stay tuned for all the upcoming episodes. But that's gonna do it for us here today. So goodbye and peace out.